Welcome to Ethan Noir Detective. Like, subscribe, and stay with the mystery. Tell me which part of the world are you watching from? I am your host, Nero Wolfe. And from storm and silence comes to new mystery for us to examine.
Chapter 4 The Missing Man's Shadow. Calvin Rush's door locked like every other door on the seventh floor, painted with the same tired color, filled with the same quiet peephole, pretending what happened behind it was none of the building business. That's the thing about the door in New York. They're modest on the outside and shameless on the inside. I got in without breaking anything, which was a relief because I had enough of splatter for 1 week. The who was simple. Mr. Clay had watched me in the hallway with the kind of fresh interest only an old woman can sustain. And when I mentioned the police, she suddenly remembered the Calvin had once given her a spare key in case I ever needed to water his plant. The plant, by the way, was dead. Bring it back, she warned, handing me the key as if it were contraband. I don't, I said. If I don't, I said, you will haunt me. I don't haunt, she snapped. I report. I led myself onto the 7D and stepped into a room that felt like a man had left it under protest. No body, no blood, no suitcase, just absence. Like someone erased the man and forgot to erase the outline he left behind. The apartment was neat, not in the fussy way of a person trying to impress, but in the way disciplined way of a person who don't believe in leaving evidence of his habit. The sofa cushions were aligned, the kitchen sink were dry, the bed was made with the corners sharp enough to cut bread. It was a kind of neatness that make you think of record and rolls and a man who killed the world to behalf, which make the desk stand out. It was simple wooden desk against the wall, the sort you buy because it holds paper, not because it filter your taste. The top was bare except for a bottle, a pen holder, and a single lamp. But the central drawer, where a man kept what's matter, had a wound. The lock wasn't broken the way an amateur break it. It was forced. Clearly, the wood around the ledge was splattered, the kind of fresh splinter you get when a screwdriver goes in at the right angle and the hand behind it doesn't travel. It pulled the drawer open, empty. Not empty because he never used it, but empty because it had been emptied. The inside showed a face clean rectangle where something had a set paper snagged, folder, maybe a small box. On the floor beneath the desk, half under the vast basket, was a torn corner of an envelope I picked up. On the corner, in a pencil, were a number, not a phone number, not an address, a sequence like someone had started to write a code and then wrapped it away in a hurry. 676. The question mark were not actual question mark, more like smudged gap where the rest of the digit had been on the missing part of the envelope. Number without a key are just noise, but noise tells you where the part is. I set the envelope corner on the desk and looked around with the slow patient pull had trained into me. Not because I enjoy impatient, but because I save you later. There was a bookshelf, mostly nonification, building codes, city history, a couple of legal volumes, a thin binder labeled HA in a neat book letter. Hawthorne arms, I opened it. Inside were clipped notice, photocopied letter, and handwritten notes, complaints, dates, names. One name appeared more than once. Halt, another halt, and then on a page near the back, a line that made my eyebrow rise. Service stop between 6 and 7. Ask Mohsin. Ask about panel. So Calvin Rush hadn't just argued about record in journal. He had been taking notice. He had been tracking something. And now he was gone. I checked the kitchen. No dishes. No sign of a meal interrupt. The fridge held a carton of milk, half a loaf of bread, and a jar of mustard. Food for a man who ate because biology required it, not because he wanted pleasure. In the bedroom, the quest was in order, shirt on a hanger, shoes lined, no obvious fitting, missing suitcase, which means the probability hadn't left on a purpose. I went back out the hall and returned the key, Mr. Clay, because I did not want her imagination to make the laboratory with my honesty. She stood in her doorway like a sentry. Well, neat apartment, I said. Too neat for a man who left in a hurry. Desk drawer forced something taken. Her mouth tightened. I told you. Told me what? That trouble was coming, she said. Men like Calvin, they think paper protects them. Paper can protect you, I said. If the other man can reach you, thought it? Her eyes narrowed. I heard him last night. What's time? I asked. After midnight? She said. I was awake. I always wake at midnight. It's my blind little hobby. I heard voice through the wall. Muffled. A man and a man. I asked. Yes, she said. Calvin said. She paused, searching her memory with the precious of a person who knows what bad matter. He said, you can't bury it in a paperwork. That's landed her. And the other voice, I asked. I couldn't make out what, she admitted grudgingly, but it was angry, close like they were standing right by the door. And then I asked, and then the elevator? He said, eyes sharp. I groaned like it was lifting a secret. I looked down the hall at the elevator door. It sat there, quiet and innocent, as a locked mouth. All right, I said. Thank you, Mr. Clay. She snapped. Bring him back. I didn't promise. Promises are for children and politicians. I just nodded and walked toward the service stairwell. The Hawthorne arm had one of the those stairwell nobody used unless the elevator breaks or the building catches fire. It smelled of old paint and disuse. The step was concrete, the wall brick painted over, and the light was dim enough to make you feel like you were trespassing in the building's private throat. I started down slowly, looking at the edge of the step where that light to collect. Halfway between 6 and 7, I sighed. Plaster dust, pale fine new. A small drift on the step like someone had walked through a construction site and trekked without noticing. In a brick building, plaster dust in a gas that doesn't belong unless somebody has recently put and plastered. I crunched and rubbed a bit between my finger. I crumbled soft, not like old mortar. Fresh. I stood and looked along the stairwell well. Brick painted, no obvious new work here, which means the dust had come from somewhere else, somewhere with fresh plaster, and had been carried through the stairwell by someone's shoes or clothing. I went down to the sixth floor, landed, and checked the door to the corridor that led toward the elevator. The paint around the doorframe had a face smear of white, almost invisible, unless you were already suspicious. I leaned in and sniffed. A trace of glue, not strong, not yesterday's slap in the face, just a faint chemical whisper, like the building was trying to deny it but couldn't quite erase the scent. I backed away, the mind mapping road. If there was a hidden corridor between 6 and 7, and I could blink, then there had to be a way to assess it without being inside the elevator. A service panel, a stairwell, a concrete door, and if someone had carried plaster dust, they had been in the corridor recently, either building it, alternating it, or cleaning up after use it. I left the stairwell and went back to the lobby because the lobby is where the buildings pretend to be the polite, and polite places are where you can ask questions without being punched. Holt was not at the desk this time. Holt was not inside. The reception in the management office gave me a startled look as I paused. Then she recovered her professional smile. Mr. Holt is unavailable, she said quickly. That's all right, I said. I am not here to see him. I'm here to borrow his concession. Her smile fluttered. I didn't press. I had enough. Back outside, I called Wolf from a phone booth because I wanted the word to travel clearly. He answered with the same calm. He answered with the same calm he always had, as if the city were miserly, as if the city were merely a puzzle he had not he bothered to solve. Wolf, he said, rush department is neat. I told him, no sign of packing. Desk drawer was flashly fast, clean splatter, empty inside like someone was removed. I found a torn envelope corner with a pencil sequence 676. Looked like someone wrapped it in a hurry. Wolf's silent told me he always already fitting the number into the outline. Mr. Clay had an argument after midnight. I continued. She heard us say, "You can't bury it in a paperwork." Then the elevator groaned like it was carrying something heavy. And Wolf said, "I found fresh plaster dust in the service stairwell between 6 and 7. I said, play and new. Doesn't belong on the block floor unless someone built something with plaster recently. There's also a faint glow trace near the sixth floor landing. Wolf's voice calm, slow and certain. Then the building is not haunted, Archie. It is staged. That's my feeling, I said. The hallway is a prop, the back out is a cue, somebody running a show, and the missing person are part of the performance, Wolf said, and his tone made it an accusation. Yeah, I said, two missing now, Harkness and Rush. And Rush was collecting notes. He had blender labeled Hawthorne arm with hot and hard names all over it. He was tracing the service stop. Wolf inhaled, a distressing howl in a theatrical device. Therefore, the perpetrator is a Stygian maintenance contractor or manager who will identify who had access to darkness. Meaning we can kill the light, I said. Wolf inhaled a distressing howl in a theatrical device. Therefore, the perpetrator is a Stygian maintenance contractor or manager who will identify who had access to darkness, meaning who can kill the light, I said, or who can explore the moment the lights die. Wolf corrected. There is a difference, so I said. In one case you are a technician, in other you are a predator. Wolf's voice hardened, returned at once. Oh my way, yeah, on my way, I said. I hung and laid a cap. I hung up and held a cap. And as I rode back toward West 3050, I kept looking at the penciled sequence in my mind. 676. I could be the apartment number. It could be apartment number. It could be floors. It could be a elevator setting. It could be a code for steps. Or it could be the sequence of where someone went with two missing people. Down, up, down like moving piece on a board. Number without a key or noise. But Wolf had a way of finding keys. And when he did, the Hawthorne were going to stop blinking and start confessing. Chapter 5. Renovation that doesn't exist. There are two kind of official truth in New York City. The kind you can read in a file and the kind you can smell in a basement. The trick is figuring out which one is lying. The next morning I went downtown to the city building office because Wolf wanted paper and Wolf get what he wants either by reason, money, or my shoe leather. The building office was a narrow room full of tired people and cabinets that looked like as if they had more despair than documents. A line of citizens waited with the resigned face of a man and a woman hoping to convince the city their problem were real. When my turn came, I slid my request across the counter to a clerk who had mastered the art of being continuous without being helpful. Hawthorne Arm, she said, scanning West End Avenue. That's the one. I said. I am looking for any interior renovation permit in the last year. Anything involving floors 6 and 7, any structural work, any electrical. Her finger moved over a keyboard. Her face didn't change, which meant either she was bored or she was reading something interesting and refusing to react. She clicked twice, forward and clicked again. No permits for interior work in the last year, she said flat as a tabletop. I blinked. Nor? Nor, she repeated. Routine inspection report, elevator certification, fire complaints, but no interior renovation, no building outs, no electrical permits beyond standard maintenance. I leaned in a little. You sure? Because I will go to a hallway that smells like a fresh glue and bad intentions. She looked up for the first time, eyes tired but sharp. You got a hallway in that building? It is not in our file. I nodded and thanked her. Because there is no arguing with a clerk who has the power to make your day longer by misplacing you from on purpose. Outside, the winter air felt clear after the building office. I also felt like a wet dick. No permits mean one of two things: no work or illegal work. The hallway didn't feel imaginary. I caroled from the sidewalk. City says no permits. I told him. Then the work was clandestine. Proceed where? I asked. To where the work was purchased, Wolf said material are honest, people are not. So I proceed back to the hearthstone arm, where honestly had been replaced by polish. I went in through the lobby because I preferred my trespassing to the dressed. I went in through the lobby because I prefer my trespassing to be dressed. The doorman eyed me with that helpless dread of a man who cannot legally tackle you but you would enjoy doing it. I nodded politely and went straight to the basement. Boston was there, moving tall around as if I agreement could soothe his nerve. He looked up and his face hardened. You are not supposed to be down there, he said. I am supposed to be wherever your lies lie, I said. Where Hall Mosinja worked in his office. Good, I said. Then he's not in my way. I wandered among the culture, not like a man looking for something specific, but like a man who had all day and an endless appetite for boredom. That's how you find what people hide, by looking as if you don't care. Near the boiler was a clipboard hanging on a hook. Boiler schedule, inspection day, routine notes. It was a kind of thing no one pay attention to unless the boiler explodes, and even then they mostly pay attention to the explosion. I paid attention. The clipboard was slightly crooked, not enough to scream, but enough to whisper. I lifted it. Behind it, taped to the wall, was a folded pocket of receipts. Plywood, trick light, carpet roll, plasterboard, fastener, adhesive, oriental invoice for a drywall lift. It wasn't a shopping list for a kitchen repair. It was a shopping list for a corridor. I stood there for a moment, letting the meaning settle. The hallway had been brought recently, brought in a quantity that said we are building something that want to look finished. I tumbled through the receipts and saw dates, last evening purchases, weekend purchases, and one marked cash in a thin print. I heard a footstep behind me. I turned and found Mawson staring. His face peeled. That doesn't belong to you, he said. No, I agreed. It's belonged to the truth. He took a step forward, and for a second I thought he might try to grab the pocket. His hand twitched. Then he stopped, as if his nerve hit a well. You don't understand? He said. Law. That's what the guilty will always say. I replied. They think ignorance is a defense. Mohsin swallowed. It's complicated. Complicated in a crossword. I said, this is a construction. Who paid for it? His eyes flickered away. Who signed for it? I pressed. I didn't. He muted. Then someone above you. Did I said or Mohsin mouth tight. He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I pocketed my notebook, not the recipe. I don't want Mohsin to decide to call me after all. But I copied detail fast. Vendor name, dates, item description. Enough for Wolf to smell the lie without leaving his chair. Then I went back upstairs and out through a side door to the loading dock area behind the building. Because material doesn't teleport. If someone brought in a wall panel and carpet roll, a driver had to curse about it. The loading dock was a narrow alley space with a roll-up door and a pitch and a patch of stained concrete. The loading dock was a narrow alley space with a roll-up door and a pitch of stained concrete that had seen too many deliveries and too few cleaning. I lingered watching around noon a delivery van bagged enough for a different building, and the driver hopped out, slammed the door, and lit a cigarette with the annoyed grace of a man who has been asked to carry too many boxes up too many stairs. I approached him with my best friendly stranger face. Hi. He glanced at me. Yeah. You ever driven to Tottenham? I asked. Not toward the building. He exhaled smoke. Sometimes. Why? I am trying to track a last night delivery. I said wall panel, carpet, that kind of thing. His eyes narrowed. Then he laughed one short. You kidding? Yeah, I remember that. You do. I said. Hard to forget, he replied. They told me to come late, real late, like after midnight. Said he didn't want to tenant seeing stuff in the lobby. Paid in cash, nice cash tip too. Who told you? I asked. He sugared. Dispatcher give me the notes. Said Houghton Ann. Side entrance. Call when you arrive. I called. Guy come down. What guy? I asked. He frowned, thinking manager type, suit, not the super. Had a clipboard like he was important. Signed for it. I asked. Yeah, he said. I don't remember the name, just a scrabble. But he had that official smell. No, you know, like he didn't lift anything heavier than a open. That sound like halls, I murmured. Maybe the driver said, all I know is he told me be quick and slipped me an extra 20. Like I was doing him a favor. You are, I said, whatever you know, it or not. The driver struggled again. A job. Sure, I said. And sometime a job, a felony. Felony. Sure, I said. And sometime a job, felony. She squirted. Hey, I don't. Relax, I said. I'm not the city. I am just a guy trying to find two missing people. The stubborn him. He freckled, eh? I is going to building too. Yeah, I said a woman or a man. He twisted. Then maybe the midnight delivery wasn't just panel? Maybe, I said, and lifting him to the cigarette and his guilt that night because daylight wasn't given enough cigarette. I went back to the Hawthorne with Durkin. Fred is useful in the way a crowbar is useful, quite strong and able to persuade door that were rise barely. We didn't break in. We didn't need to. Building like the Hawthorne have a weaknesses. They trust their own people. Fred looking like I belonged, and I looked like I had a reason to be on, and I looked like I had a reason to be owned. Together, that get up past a lot of question. We went straight to the elevator machine room. Mosin wasn't there. The basement was quieter than unusual, which is what happened when a builder think it asleep. The control cabinet sat against the wall, a metal box with a lock that locked all enough to have storage. Fred eyes meet mine. You want this open? Not loudly, I said. He was playing a careful instrument. I mean, later. The cabinet door gave way with the soft cabinet. He worked his crowbar like he was playing a careful instrument. A minute later, the cabinet door gave with a soft and he stared into the guts. Wire relays a neat enough agreement that suggested someone competent. Wire relays a neat enough agreement that suggested someone competent had been there. But right away I saw something I didn't match the old setup. A newly tangled switch. Clean, shiny metal, freshly installed it. It was too low, pretty hidden under a strap of tape. The tape had a handwritten label, Inspect. I snored softly. That's cute. Fred leaned it. What it do? I will tell you what it looks like. I said a bypass, something that you can interrupt normal control, maybe light, maybe stops, maybe door timing, like a secret handshake. The switch looked innocent, the way a snake looks like a belt. I didn't touch it. That's a lesson you learn when you have been blocked out twice by a building. Don't flip unknown switches in unknown boxes unless you enjoy walking up somewhere strange. Instead, I photographed it when a small camera I carried for a moment just like this and noted the wire routing as best I could. Fred grunted. So that how they do it. Part of it, I said. The other part is the corridor itself. We closed the cabinet as quietly as we could and got out before we gave to building a reason to notice us. Back home, I called Wolf because he liked his evidence sound fresh. He was in his office, of course. I could hear the faint click of something, probably a glass. Wolf takes his comfort seriously even when he's angry. No permits, I said, but I found hidden receipts in the basement behind a bowl of schedule. Plywood, plasterboard, track, lighting, carpet roll, adhesive, hallway shopping list. Also take to a driver. He delivered wall panels after midnight, paid in cash, signed by a short type. And the elevator? Wolf asked. Inside the machine room, I said control cabinet have a new tangle switch, clean as a twist spool, hidden under a tape labeled inspect. Looked like a bypass. Somebody added it to make the elevator behave creatively. Wolf's silence came, and in it I could hear him fitting the pieces together. Illegal construction materials, cash deliveries at midnight, a new bypass switch, a blinking hallway. Then Wolf spoke, and his voice had something rare. As meant, excellent, he said softly. You sound happy, I told him. A cat may smile at a mouse, then has begun to slow down, Wolf replied. I grant despite myself. So we got the mouse. We have its shadow. Wolf cracked it. How we must complay it to show his face. And the missing people, I asked. Wolf voice sharpened. That is the urgency. The corridor is not merely a distraction, it is an instrument. We will find where it laid. He paused and added, bring me the receipts, detail, and a photograph at once. I will be there in 10, I said. I don't care how long, Wolf said. I care that you arrive alive. I don't care how long, Wolf said. I care that you arrive alive. That was Wolf's version of affection. Cold, practical, and genuine. As I hung up, I realized something else. If Horde and Horde have a building a corridor of the elevator stiff, with illegal material and a secret switch. They didn't done it for a fun. They done it because they needed a place that tenant couldn't find, the police couldn't imagine. A place where a person could vanish. And now two people had. Which mean the hallway doesn't mean the mystery anyone. It was the method. Chapter 6. The Dark Between Floors. Walt does not enjoy a field trip. He endured them the way a king endured rain, because refusing would look foolish, and because the matter occasionally demanded. The Hawthorne arm had crossed that line. It was no longer merely an affront to good sense. It was a mechanism that has swollen two people. So Wolf did what he always does when the world insists on being physical. He arranged for someone else to serve on his behalf, and then he had a witness who would make the suffering official. The witness was Inspector Kermer at the brownstone at dusk with his hat pulled down and his patient pulled tighter. He looked around Wolf's office with the same expression he wore in church, annoyed that someone expect reverence. I get a call, he glowed, that Nero Wolfe want to show me an elevator that think it's a magician. I got murderers and blogger and politician. Now I got, he waved a hand, ghost floor. Archie Goodman contribute to the law enforcement. He always been translation. So I said, call it indoor exercise. Inspector Cameron great at me. You think you're funny? Not always, I said, but often enough to survive. Wolf sat behind his desk like a monument that had learned to talk. Inspector, he said, I would not inconvenience. I could not inconvenience you for whimsy. Two tenants of the Hawthorne Arms are missing. I suspected they were abducting using a contrivance involving the elevator. Cameron shortened. You suspect? I know, Wolf cracked it. The elevator can be made to stop between the sixth and seventh floor, that the light can be extinguished, and that access can be gained to a space that is not a part of the building legitimate plan. I also know the building management has falsified record and installed unauthorized control switch. Cameron's eyes narrowed, but it wasn't disbelief anymore. It was irritation mixed with curiosity, the only two emotions he permits in public. And you got proof, he demanded. Wolf gestured toward me. Archie will provide it tonight. We will demonstrate the mechanism with you as witness. Cameron glanced at me, and if I fall down a hole, you will not. Wolf said calmly. We will bring our own light. That was a wolf, perhaps. That was a wolf phrase, but the idea was mine, and he had come from a simple fact. Darkness is not magic, it's just a condition someone create because they need you blind. At 9 o'clock, we were in the Hawthorne Arm lobby. Three men who didn't match the building ghost story. The Mormon stiffened when he saw camera. The sight of a police inspector tend to assure the air in the place that trend on respectability. Cameron flashed his badge. Evening, I'm here to look at your elevator. The doorman swelled. There's nothing wrong with. Save it, Cameron said. Where the manager? The doorman eyes darted toward the corridor, landing to the management office. Mr. Hollett, he's not in. Wall stood beside the elevator door, his coat buttoned, his face composed, his displayer swimming beneath the surface.
He looked like a man who had been forced to attend a carnival. Proceed, he said. We stepped into the elevator. Cameron took back corner like a man prepared to arrest a machinery. Wolf stood near the panel watching it with contempt. I did the useful work. I had a small flashlight in my pocket, one of the compact metal ones that give you a tight beam without much fuss. Before I pressed any button, I took a strap of tape from my pocket and fixed the flashlight under the headroll, angled toward the side wall, camera wide. What's that for? Going up, I said, and stayed lit when the building tried to make his blend. Wolf eyes flickered toward the flashlight, and for a moment I saw the rare glint, removal, approval, like a teacher plays that student hadn't eaten the choco. I pressed 7, the elevator rolled, the hum began, the familiar sway, the indicator lit up the number that pretend they were in charge. We pressed 5, we pressed 6, then the lich had harder than easier, like the elevator was irritating at being tasted. The light went out, not a freckle this time, full black, sudden and complete. But the flashlight under the headrail stay on, and its thin beam scaling across the dark line of blade. Darkness just cover a charge. The light show you how paid it. In the beam, the side wall of the elevator becomes something else, not just painted metal, but a surface with the seam that shouldn't be there if the car had been built the way it claimed. I leaned toward the wall. In the cone of light, it could see a hell and gap running vertical, two straight and two with accidental, a panel beam, and a near stream. Low on the wall, a vent covered with screws that looked fresh, and the head bright as if didn't been turned yesterday. Cameron leaned it, his grumble turning onto focus. That not standard. No, I said softly. That custom. Wolf's voice came from the dark, steady, obvious the track. I stiffed the flashlight beam slightly with my hand, angling it. This seam wasn't just a seam, it had a faith deceived groove alongside it. The kind of thing you see where a panel side camera had went to his gun without thinking. Easy, mermaid. If you shoot the elevator, it take it personally. Shut up, Cameron snapped, but his voice had lost of its heat. He was saying what Wolf wanted him to see, an elevator that had been modified for a purpose that wasn't safe. Then dig. But it was not the cheerful ding for a normal stop. It was a muted chime, as if the sound had been padded. The door began to open, not fully, halfway, just enough to reveal a narrow gap, and beyond it, nothing like a hallway, not brick pressed close as in a daylight, but a narrow landing, a pocket of a space between floor where someone had carved out room like a cavity in a tooth. The flashlight beam read through the opening, and what it lit made my stomach tighten. A strap of concrete landing, bare, dusty, closed wall, and on the floor scuff mark, not the random scuff of shoes passing. There were heel dang in that angle, skids along straps, straightened and ugly, running toward a shadowed corner. I stepped closer to the opening, careful not put my head through like a man offering it to a glitoline. The beam traced the strap.
You sweet that? I asked Cameron. He grunted. Yeah. You don't drag a suitcase like that, I said. Cameron's jaw clenched. You drag a man, Wolf said quietly, preciously. The elevator straightened again and heard something inside the wall. A faint mechanical click like a relay completing a circuit. The same click I did hear near the hidden recipe. This was not a malfunction. It is a sequence. Lights out, stop, door half open, pocket accessible. Then, if you wanted, panel slide, vent open, and the stage hand. Camera moved forward, peering out. What the hell is this? A trap, I said, or a loading dock. Wolf's voice was calm but edged. A theoretical device inspector designing to misdirect and to conceal. Cameron turned his head toward Wolf, eyes narrowed in his thin beam. You saying they built this to kidnap people? I am saying, Wolf replied, that is has been used to transport them. The scuff mark indicate resistance. The scrap indicate weight, drag rather than carried. It is evidence of Corkin. Cameron's face darkened. He reached through the half-open door and pushed on the edge, trying to force them wider. They resisted, then sniffed a friction, enough to show another detail. A metal lip embedded in the landing wall, part of a trace, something that could slide out or fold out, a corridor that could appear when needed and vanish when not. Cameron crushed under his beneath. Jesus. I kept the flashlight beam steady and looked more closely at the scuff. There were heel print and the kind you make when your feet are braced and you are being pulled, and their faith but clear in dust. A mark that looked like a shoe toe dug in and when scraped sideways, not walking, dragging. Cargo. The elevator moved again, just a tremor, and the door began to close. Hold it. I barked, jamming my hand against the door edge. It pinched harder, but the door responded a friction. Cameron shoved his arm through and managing to wedge it wider. Inspector Wolf said, "Do not be reckless." Cameron snarled, "Now you tell me." He pulled his arm back, and the door closed as if the elevator were embraced. The light comes on. We were moving again. The indicator now read 7, as if the car had gone straight there like a good citizen. When the door opened on the 7th floor hallway, it was a perfectly ordinary old wallpaper, old carpet, old smell, a building that had just shown us its secret pocket. Now, pretending it didn't know what we were talking about, Cameron stepped out like a man having a crime scene and entering a parlor. His face was set. Wolf stepped out more slowly, adjusting his coat as if he recently having been a part of demonstration. Well, I asked Cameron. He looked at me when a grace that contained grudgingly something like agreement. All right, he said, you got something. Wolf said, we have proof of mechanism. Now we require proof of agency. Camera turned toward the elevator door as they closed. Who the hell had access to that? Wolf's eyes are cold. This agent. On his maintenance supervisor, I added, or whatever installed by bypass switch. Camera mouth tightened. I am going to bring man in. Well, tear his place apart. Wolf voice cut in. Sharp, not yet. Camera swung on him. Not yet? You just showed me a kidnapping shoot? Wolf gas held him. If you're moving too soon, Inspector, you will threaten the perpetrator. If the missing are still alive, that is intolerable. We must discover where the corridor led before you announce to the building that you intend to demolish it. Camera stirred, jaw working. Then he looked away, furious because Wolf was right. All right, he said through his teeth. So what do you want? Wolf eye narrowed in thought. Keys, logs, and the identifying of the man who think to can control the darkness. Camera snorted. I will give your keys, and I, Wolf said, will get your mermaid. I don't correct him. Not until you found out whatever the missing or died. But as we walked down the hall toward the stairwell, I gazed back to the elevator, and the image of those scuff marks stayed in my mind. Whatever vanished rush didn't just hide him, they moved him like cargo. And in New York, cargo usually goes somewhere. There are door waiting.